The dentists have done a phenomenal job at trying out this concept of pulling the jaw forward or modifying the structure in a temporary or even a permanent way. And it makes sense. It's been studied. We aren't doing great with it, so we keep trying to do a better way with it. It competes in a certain population, but the bottom line is CPAP always works, so we go back to it. And you know, doctors unfortunately have a tendency to say that if something works, I don't really care if the patient likes it. And you can argue that both ways. You can say sometimes that's important. We have to convince you to do things you don't want to do, convince ourselves to do things we don't want to do, like avoid that fancy French food with the butter and the cholesterol, or at least sometimes not have it. We have to get ourselves to exercise when we don't want to. There's a lot of things we know we should do, we don't do. So part of it is truly the doctor has to tell you, I don't care whether you like it or not, you have to. But part of it also is that the doctors have to listen and say, you know, if people are voting with their feet, maybe we have to do better. And that's a relatively new appreciation by the field that CPAP works but isn't quite as accepted as it should be, and what can we do to improve it? You're right. If we, you know, declared war on sleep apnea, maybe we'd make faster progress, and that's what the Apnea Association is supposed to be about. That's what Ed Grandy in the Washington office, that's what the board of those of us who are on it is trying to motivate. But ultimately it comes down to you. You know, you have to lobby your congressman or congresswoman to put money there instead of somewhere else. And in all truth, there are many causes competing for our dollars. Now, I believe in research. I need funding, so do my colleagues. The answers will come from research. The answers we already have about the importance of sleep apnea have come from research. So I'm a big, big fan of research. I think there are other things in research. You have to motivate companies to do things by, you know, protecting their inventions, and that's what patents are all about. There's a lot of stuff that goes into making a cure that has to do with more than the need. But the first step is recognizing the need, and that's where we're at in sleep disorders in general, sleep apnea in particular. And you guys are the, you know, the foot soldiers that can carry that flag, convincing the people that matter that this is an issue that has to be addressed. How you address it, that's, you know, that we don't know the right answer yet. Yeah, we need to put more effort into it, absolutely. And recognition is the first step. Yes?
I would just like to say on behalf of all sleep apnea patients and handicap users that we thank others like yourself for the research, the activism, the influence, keep the companies involved, and everyone else involved in the associations and do all this for patients like yourselves.
Well, thank you. But I thank you guys for, I think it's great that you have such a big group. The apnea groups have come and gone in various times, and this is one of the nice large ones. We've always felt bad that New York didn't have an active, energetic group, so I hope you guys keep it up. Anybody who wants to leave, please don't, I won't be insulted. We've gone way over, and you know, please sort of walk out. But anybody who wants to ask another question, I'll stay around a little while longer. Yeah.
I have a question for you about how you conduct research, okay? Because when I've looked at studies on various aspects of treatment of apnea, they're always using very small numbers of people. And I know a little bit about statistical methodology, not much, but a little bit. And I know that the sample sizes are very small, and that they're dealing with patients who are in many cases different. And how do you do a study when there's so many different variables like age and mouth structure and weight?
These are all the big questions. This is what we spend a year or two teaching future researchers how to try and answer, and I don't claim to always do it right. A lot of times it's a compromise between what you can do and what you want to do. Yes, we'd always like to have 1,000 patients in the study with each of the various options and so on. It costs a fortune, and it's impossible to do, and we can't get people to volunteer because a lot of times a research study requires you to donate time above and beyond anything else. And sometimes you get the payoff of being the first one to use something. Sometimes you get held back for a long time. I'll tell you, in the early days, the only people who could get CPAP were the poor people who came to the Bellevue Clinic because it was not reimbursed, we couldn't do it, and we just basically could enroll only the people around us who were, so actually the Medicaid patients were the people who got CPAP in the beginning, okay? Then the insurance companies got on board and everybody started paying for it, and it was not hard to do treatment, but the research had been done on those poor guinea pigs who actually benefited from it. The same is true with a cancer drug. You know, you get a new cancer drug, somebody's got to take it and find out that it's worse, not better. And that's a risk not everybody wants to take. So research is a funny kind of a thing. You got to fund it, it's hard. You got to spend a lot of time jumping through hoops to get the approvals so that you do it ethically. And finally, you got to convince patients to join up. And you know, I can tell you, trying to find 10 people who wanted to learn the didgeridoo and come in after hours wasn't dangerous. It was noisy, but it wasn't dangerous. It took us almost 2 years to get 10 patients. And that's why you have small sample sizes. Now,
But then so that's my question.
you should be realistic. Yeah, that's right. You should be realistic, and that's what they make us do before we start a study, is prove that if you did it with 10 people, it could answer a question provided the effect is big enough. The answer is you don't get small effects proven with small studies. Small effects, you need a lot of people. Big effects, it took 1 patient to show CPAP worked. Okay? It may take 1,000 patients to show some of these improvements on CPAP work. That's just the way it is, you know. But you're right, it's a big problem, and I've spent a long time, a lot of these gray hairs come from answering that question, or not answering it. Yes, Nita?
Comparing the autopap to sleep-to-wake technology. Is that what it's called, sleep-to-wake technology?
Does what?
Sleep-to-wake technology?
Yeah.
So when a patient on autopap wakes up, what exactly happens to the pressure? Is the pressure that they're feeling or experiencing when they've just woken up, is it the last pressure that the machine had to let
Well,
or does it drop off?
each machine does a different thing. So if you're asking what do the machines do, the answer is it depends on the machine. Most of the machines will come down, but for example, if you actually do that experiment, you say, okay, if breathing is normal, how long does it take for the pressure to come down? The answer might be 20 or 25 minutes for one machine, it might be 10 minutes for another machine, it might be an hour for a third machine, okay? They're all different. None of them comes down in 30 seconds. And if you really want somebody, I mean, if you think about it, when you wake up from the noise, you know, the door slamming in the next apartment, and it wakes you up, we can see that on brain waves, you go back to sleep in a few seconds. And that's normal. Most of us wake up about 15 times per hour and go back to sleep within seconds. What we'd like to do is keep that phenomenon. So when you wake up on CPAP, it's possible, this is one of the things we're trying to study now, I don't have the answer, it's possible that you wake up the same number of times, but once you're awake, you can't go back to sleep. That's what might be helped by making the CPAP more comfortable. So it's not that you wake up less, it's just that when you wake up, you go back to sleep faster. That's the goal. And comfort seems like the way to approach it. The auto CPAP should do the same thing, they just do it at a different rate because they have to rely on the absence of a problem, not on the presence of something that tells them to go down. And that's the single benefit that we think we've added. Now, the auto CPAPs were in part motivated by exactly this. I said, when you wake up, we'd like the pressure to come down, and it will over 10, 12 minutes. And maybe that's good enough. Maybe that's as good as we're going to do. Okay, so that's what they did. Unfortunately, that didn't translate into better compliance, so we're looking. That's the one thing I can say. It does take longer. Again, I have to emphasize, we have no data to show that what I'm saying actually has any impact. It just makes sense to me, at least.